Somewhere in a government office, there's a form with an animal's name on it and one word stamped beside it: extinct. A scientist signed it like a death certificate. The species was closed, finished, filed away. Then the report started again, a shape crossing a road at night, two eyes caught in a trail camera, a howl no living thing should still be making. These animals are officially gone. Every textbook agrees. Yet ordinary people keep swearing they saw one. Last week, last month, right there. Today, here are 6 creatures we declared dead that quietly refuse to stay dead. Here's the strange thing about that word, extinct. It sounds final, a door closing, a period at the end of a sentence. But most of the time, nobody actually watches the last one die. Extinction gets declared the way a missing person is declared legally dead, not because we found a body, but because enough years passed with no sign of them. It is a conclusion drawn from silence. And silence can be broken. It has happened before, in the most spectacular way. The coelacanth, a heavy blue fish, was believed to have died out with the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, known only from stone. Then, in 1938, a museum curator in South Africa named Marjorie Courtenay-Latima found one lying in a fisherman's catch, freshly dead and utterly alive until moments before. 66 million years of certainty, undone by a single fish on a dock. So keep that in mind. For every animal on this list, the stamp came down, and then the phone calls, the photographs, and the sightings started, and never quite stopped. Start in the forests of the eastern United States, where for nearly a century people have been chasing a ghost with a heartbeat. In 1938, a biologist named Bruce Wright documented the last cougar anyone could verify in the region, a big, tawny cat that once ranged from Canada down into the Carolinas. After that, nothing solid. The eastern cougar had been hunted relentlessly, and so had the deer it fed on, until there were neither enough cats nor enough food to keep them alive. For decades, the government left the case open. Then, in 2011, the US Fish and Wildlife Service reached a quiet, grim conclusion. The eastern cougar was extinct, and had probably been extinct since the 1930s. In January of 2018, they made it official, and struck the animal from the endangered species list. You cannot protect something that no longer exists. And that should have been the end of it. Except the sightings never stopped. Every year, across New England, the Appalachians, the upper Midwest, ordinary people phone in the same report. A long, low cat with a heavy dragging tail crossing a road at dusk, then slipping into the tree line. Too big for a bobcat, moving wrong for a dog. They know what they saw. Wildlife officers investigate, and the answer is almost always the same. A bobcat at a distance, a large house cat, a trick of the failing light. Occasionally, though, it is real. In 2011, the very year the eastern cougar was ruled extinct, a young male cougar was struck and killed by a car on a highway in Connecticut, a state where the species had been gone for generations. Everyone assumed it was an escaped pet. Then the DNA came back. The animal had walked from the Black Hills of South Dakota, roughly 1,500 miles, the longest journey ever recorded for its kind, ending under the wheels of a car in a place cougars were supposed to have vanished from a century before. It was real, and it was there, and it was still not proof the eastern cougar had survived, only that the line between gone and here is thinner than a signature on a form. Which raises the uneasy question sitting under this whole list. If a cat that officially does not exist keeps turning up on people's trail cameras, what exactly are we looking at? A mistake? A stray? Or the quiet return of something we swore we had already ended? The cougar is the gentlest case here. It only gets stranger from here. They called the next one the Lord God bird. The story goes that the ivory-billed woodpecker was so enormous, so startling when it burst out of the trees, that people who saw it could only gasp 2 words: Lord God. It was the largest woodpecker in the United States, a crow-sized bird in glossy black and white, with a pale chisel of a bill and a slash of scarlet on the male's crest. It lived in the great bottomland swamps of the American South, the flooded forests of ancient trees. And then we cut those forests down. By 1944, the last universally accepted sighting was logged in the Singer Tract of Louisiana, a single female moving through the last stand of old growth as the loggers closed in around her. After that, the bird slid into legend. Birdwatchers spent whole lives chasing rumors through the swamps, and in every generation someone came back swearing they had seen it, heard its strange nasal call, found the fresh bark it stripped from a dead tree. Nothing ever held up. Until 2004, when a kayaker in the flooded woods of eastern Arkansas reported a huge woodpecker exploding off a trunk in front of him. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology launched a massive, secretive search and released a few seconds of blurry video, a smear of black and white vanishing behind a tree. For one electric moment, the world believed the ghost bird had come back. Then the experts began to argue, and never stopped. The video wasn't clear enough. The sightings couldn't be confirmed. In 2021, the Fish and Wildlife Service proposed making it official, extinct. And then, in 2023, they hesitated and deferred the declaration, unwilling to fully close a case that refuses to die. So the ivory bill now lives in a kind of limbo, neither confirmed alive nor permitted to be dead. And somewhere in those drowned forests, people are still standing waist-deep in black water, cameras up, listening for the two sounds that give it away. A nasal call like a child's tin trumpet, and a sharp double knock on a distant trunk. One rap and then an echo. The sound of a bird that is not supposed to exist, announcing itself and then going quiet. They wait for a ghost to break cover. Most of them will tell you the same thing. It is still out there, they just can't prove it. The next one. People didn't only see, they heard it in the dark. In the mountains of Japan, the wolf was a god. The Honshu wolf was the smallest wolf that ever lived, barely knee-high, closer to the size of a large dog, with short legs and a lean body built for the steep, forested slopes of the Japanese islands. For centuries, farmers did not fear it. They worshipped it. In the Shinto tradition, the wolf, Okami, was a guardian and a messenger of the mountain spirits, a protector that kept deer and boar out of the crops and evil out of the high passes. Travelers prayed to it for safe passage. Shrines were raised in its honor, and some of them still stand today. Then the world turned on it. In the 1800s, rabies swept through the population, and expanding farmland and imported attitudes recast the sacred guardian as vermin. It was poisoned and hunted for bounties. The last confirmed Honshu wolf was killed in 1905. In Nara Prefecture, its body sold to a passing collector. A god, reduced to a specimen in a drawer. Officially, that was the end. The species wiped from the living world for more than a century. But Japan is a country of dense, misted mountains and deep, trackless forest, and the wolf never quite loosened its grip on the imagination. People kept hearing it, a long howl rising out of a valley where no wolf should be, a sound that older residents insist they could never mistake for a dog. In 1996, a man photographed a wolf-like animal on a mountain road in the Chichibu region, and that image has been argued over ever since. Enthusiasts still collect night recordings of howls, still comb the ranges for tracks, still believe a remnant clings on up where the roads give out. The evidence is a photograph you can doubt, and a howl no one can summon on demand. But stand in one of those valleys at dusk, with the fog coming down between the cedars, and it becomes very easy to understand why an entire country cannot quite bring itself to say the mountain god is truly gone. The next animal wasn't worshipped, it was feared and hunted for it. On the island of Zanzibar, off the coast of Tanzania, the leopard didn't disappear because we ignored it. It disappeared because we hunted it on purpose. The Zanzibar leopard was a smaller island form of the African leopard, with a faded, broken pattern of spots, a cat found nowhere else on Earth, and the people of the island had become convinced it was evil. A widespread belief held that witches kept leopards the way other people kept dogs, raising them in secret, feeding them, and sending them out to attack enemies or to guard hidden wealth. To kill a leopard, then, wasn't pest control. It was killing a witch's servant. Through the 20th century, that belief hardened into an organized campaign of extermination. The leopards were trapped and speared wherever they were found, and no one lifted a hand to save an animal everyone had agreed was cursed. The last scientifically confirmed record came in 1982, the last reliable sighting in 1995. A conservation program, started far too late, was abandoned in 1997 when not one survivor could be found. The Zanzibar leopard was written off, extinct, and almost entirely unmourned. And then, in 2018, a wildlife biologist named Forrest Galante brought a film crew to the island and set camera traps in a national park, chasing whispers from locals who swore the cat was still out there. After 2 weeks, they pulled the footage and found something on it. A low, spotted animal emerging out of the darkness, crossing in front of the lens and slipping behind a tree in a matter of seconds. It was small. Its spots were faint. It looked exactly like what a Zanzibar leopard was supposed to look like. For a moment it seemed like a resurrection caught on film, but other scientists refused to sign off. The clip was brief, the night was black, And a follow-up study in 2019 found no further trace and concluded the leopards were, almost certainly, gone. So which is it? A blurry shape on a night camera? On an island where people have every reason to stay silent about a cat they were raised to kill on sight? Maybe it was the last of its kind. Maybe it was already only a memory. The next one, we didn't just fail to save. We watched it die, and we filmed it. Of every animal on this list, the Tasmanian tiger is the one that hurts. The thylacine wasn't a tiger at all. It was a marsupial, a pouched predator, sandy-colored, with a stiff tail, 16 or so dark stripes banding its lower back like a tiger's, and a jaw that could gape wider than almost any mammal alive, hinging open to a gape that looked less like a threat and more like a scream. It was the largest marsupial carnivore to survive into modern times, and even the females carried a pouch, a whole lineage of predator that existed nowhere else on the planet. It was the top predator of Tasmania, and settlers decided it was killing their sheep. So the government paid a bounty for every dead one, and people collected, year after year, until the wild population simply folded in on itself. And here is the part that is hard to sit with. In July of 1936, the Tasmanian government finally granted the thylacine legal protection. 59 days later, on the 7th of September 1936, the last known thylacine, an old animal in a cage at the Hobart Zoo, later nicknamed Benjamin, died overnight, reportedly shut out of its shelter and exposed to the cold. We protected the species less than 2 months before we let the final one die of neglect. It is one of the only animals on Earth for which we know the exact date of extinction. There is grainy black and white film of that last thylacine pacing its enclosure, yawning that impossible jaw straight at the camera, and people still cannot watch it without a knot forming in the chest. But Tasmania is wild and empty and enormous, and the reports began almost at once, and never stopped. In 2023, researchers gathered 1,237 recorded thylacine sightings dating back to 1910 and ran the numbers on when the animal most likely truly vanished. Their unsettling conclusion? It may have survived in the remote bush into the 1980s, or even the 1990s, with a small chance one could still be out there right now. There is no confirmed photograph. There is no body. Skeptics rightly point out that a dog at a distance can look like whatever you badly want it to be. And yet, in the wet forests of that island, people are still, to this very day, catching a striped shape at the edge of their headlights, an animal the entire world agrees has been dead since 1936. The last creature on this list has been gone far longer than that, and it may be the one most likely to come back. We think of the woolly mammoth as impossibly ancient, a beast of the Ice Age, of cave paintings and a frozen world that ended long before history began. But that picture is wrong, and the truth is stranger. On Wrangel Island, a scrap of frozen land in the Arctic Ocean north of Siberia, a small population of woolly mammoths was still alive around 4,000 years ago. Sit with that number for a second. The Great Pyramids of Egypt were already built. There were living mammoths on this planet after the pharaohs raised Giza. Shaggy, tusked, breathing, walking a cold island while human civilization was already well underway on the mainland. They did not die in some primordial catastrophe at the dawn of time. They dwindled, quietly, on their island, inside something close to our own recorded memory. And then they were gone, until you look at where the last of them ended up. The mammoths didn't only leave bones behind. The Siberian permafrost has been holding their bodies whole. Thawing ground and mining crews keep pulling out mammoth calves with their trunks intact, their eyes, their fur, their skin. One of them, a baby found on the Yamal Peninsula in 2007 and named Luba, is around 42,000 years old and so complete she still has the shape of her face, her little trunk, the fat on her body, the best preserved mammoth ever found, looking less like an ancient relic and more like a sleeping animal. And in the best preserved specimens, there is muscle so fresh looking that it is still dark red, alongside what appears to be liquid blood. Bodies tens of thousands of years old that look less like fossils and more like something that died last winter. Every warm season, the melting ground gives up a few more. And now comes the final twist. In laboratories right now, a company called Colossal Biosciences is working to bring the woolly mammoth back, reading its genome out of that frozen tissue, editing the living cells of Asian elephants, and openly aiming to produce the first mammoth-like calf before the end of this decade. They have not done it, but they are trying, seriously, with funding and public deadlines. So the mammoth ends up in the strangest place of anything on this list. It is thousands of years extinct, yet its intact bodies keep rising out of the melting ice, still red on the inside. and its return is no longer a shape glimpsed in the dark, but a stated goal. Of every animal we have ever declared finished, this is the one whose story genuinely is not over. 6 animals. 6 times we drew a line, signed the form, and closed the book. And 6 times, the world quietly refused to agree. So here is the thought to carry with you back into the dark. Almost none of these creatures were ever confirmed dead. We simply stopped seeing them, waited, and assumed the worst. Extinction, so often, is nothing more than the absence of proof, and absence is a fragile kind of certainty. Right now, in the drowned forests and the misted mountains, on the forgotten islands and under the thawing Arctic ground, there are places no camera watches and no scientist ever walks. And somewhere in one of them, maybe, something we have already buried is still moving through the trees. If stories like this are the kind that keep you up in the best possible way, stay with us, because there is always more still out there.